Everett, you gotta put up with so much abuse.
He does. He loves it, though. He loves it. Hey, Larry, would you do me a favor and throw this in Mark's chair? He's not coming.
What you been doing?
Would you pass that over to Larry for
Isn't
me?
here 30 seconds and she's asking favors.
But I'm nice when I do it.
Your husband upset that we were reacting?
No, he doesn't care. Less he has to talk to me, the better off he is. He can go on and talk to real people.
My wife.
I brought a thing of water and I left it in the car.
She's not going to be here. I guess I have to sit in her spot.
I love Glenn's. I love Glenn's. He looks so cute.
Oh no, they put that one up in Kelowna.
Like a rowdy crowd out there tonight.
Plainfield.
I think so.
A lot of Marion.
Effort board is on here. There he comes. We'll let you in.
I knew it was in your basket. Well, so I don't hurt you.
To be honest with you.
Librarian thing. This is what it says. Okay. You got to put it on.
Doom's got a pistol here.
Ellen is, you know. Are you, can you support it, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lay it down.
Who do you want to do? Give him Larry. I got it.
Okay. Did you see our bill?
Let me stand up. I can't stand up very good. I got to sprain my ankle, so I just
You got some adjustments in it.
not made for. I could pull a chair out.
On his
What do you do for next
Next
year?
time I will.
Because nobody's charged. Doesn't want the kitchen.
What's the Legislative Act 420 says we. It just takes forever.
Deb's not going to be here tonight?
Deb is in Madison at the legislative conference. Mike came up to me today and he goes, I have to set up the computer. I'm going to set it up on your desk. Is that okay? I'm like, well, Deb's not going to be here, so I guess it's okay.
Neighbor's barn. Come on. Oh, you were?
What?
Lightning thinks to hear the whole plan, but I will be pinching. I will be pinching.
I want to hear that.
Perfect. Are really bad. Okay.
we'll call this meeting of the Waushara County Board of Supervisors to order, and we'll start with a roll call.
Mrs. Prince?
Here.
Mr. Tim?
Here.
Mr. Piasky?
Here.
Mr. Wedding?
Here.
Mr. Downey?
Here.
Mr. Epstein?
Here.
Mrs. Colada? Here. Mr. Weiss?
Here.
Mr. Likeness?
Here.
Mr. Crawford?
Here.
And Mark Kirschner's excused.
Mark Kirchner's excused tonight, and Deb Behringer, our coordinator, is excused tonight. She's at a convention. Now we'll stand for silent prayer and then the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag this is our part for public comment, and to have public comment, you have to sign up, and only 2 have signed up tonight. The librarians will be speaking later tonight, but we're going to start with our first for public comment, and Larry Monroe from Hancock.
Larry Monroe from Village of Hancock, representing the Hancock Community Center. Understand that on the agenda this evening there's the kitchen proposal. Just like to make a couple comments that we have put in new furnaces in that portion, which has helped tremendously, and we're doing a study to possibly at the end of the year lower the monthly rate that we have set at the $1,300 a month. It's an excellent program, and we'd like to keep it in Hancock if at all possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Larry. Our next speaker is David Peterson, our sheriff.
Thank you. I'm here also to speak on the kitchen project, and I tried to do a little research about what was going to be on the agenda tonight, so I asked for what you folks had got in your packets, and I was given this elderly nutrition program literature. And I'm here to tell you that I think that's a great project. It's a great program, and it's an important part of ensuring my peers are taken care of and can stay in their homes as long as possible. However, after doing a little more investigating, it appears that it's more than just a program. My understanding is that it's also a building. And I have some concerns about a building project right now because of a few things. Right now, all projections that we're hearing from state and federal government is that we're going to be receiving less aid in 2012. We're meeting Thursday this week with DOC, and they want to talk about our contract for state inmates. I don't know what that means. Other years we've met, we've always managed to keep it, but I know that they're trying to balance their budget too, and that might have an impact on whether or not to get a contract, which is going to have an impact on my budget. We were informed last week that it appears that there's a good chance that EMS is going to lose a significant amount of their revenue, which will impact their budget. The other concern I have is, and I know that many of you were on the board when we studied, or you studied, the feasibility of a kitchen/EMS building, and that kind of grew from a small project and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon nothing got done. And right now we're currently about 3/4 of the way through a fairly significant project that I've been here and spoke to you about in the past. It's a multi-million-dollar project that you're aware of, although because we're not through with it, it hasn't been finalized and we're still working on it. I don't want to see something else have that project go the way of the project that was started before, and nothing got done. Most every county department has needs. I was informed about 2 weeks ago that Parks is kind of outgrowing their building that we share with Parks. And they would like to, I think, probably at some point in time, take over the part that I have for our impound garage and storage of some of my stuff, which is going to leave us with having to do something else. EMS is still in cramped quarters. That hasn't changed from a couple of years ago. We met a couple of weeks ago and talked about courthouse security. That's a big issue, and this building is very difficult to secure properly, and if we have to do something about that, that's going to be a significant cost to that also. The dispatch center, we're working on basically countertops. It was great. It was pretty spacious when we moved in, but technology has changed. Now I have telephone people crawling on their hands and knees when my dispatchers get out of the way so they can rewire some of the more equipment that's coming in. So I think at some point in time we're going to be looking at coming here and asking to bump out that wall and probably increase the size of that by twice as big as it is now. I guess the bottom line is I think that there's a difference between wants and needs. And I guess I would encourage the board that before you move forward with any additional project, that you would consider maybe a long range. I don't know what long range is in this day and age. Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? Is it 10 years? I don't know. But I think you need to consider a long range 4 to 10 year facilities plan and avoid piecemealing stuff together and a little building here and a little building there and a small project here and a small project there. It's very difficult to plan for the future, but I think that we need to be very cautious. And again, I am not opposed to the meal program itself. I think it's a great program. I've eaten there and many times, and I enjoy not only the meal but the camaraderie that goes with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. That takes care of our registration for public comments. Now we have an agenda. We need a motion.
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Ennis, second by Mrs. Krentz. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Been approved. Now we're going to have approval of minutes of our January 11th meeting for the Community Development Block Grant and also an economic development for our public hearing with the county board that night. We need a motion on it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mike Likeness. Do we have a second on the motion? Second by Everett Eckstein. Any discussion on the minutes of the hearings? Hearing none, all in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's been approved. Full business. Now we're going to have a presentation on library funding discussion, and this is a time in our program where our county library directors have a chance to speak. So go up to the mic and introduce yourself and
well, good evening. I'm Linda Steffen, and I'm the director at the Patterson Memorial Library in Wild Rose. Today we live in a very mobile society, and Waushara County residents, like many Americans, are willing to travel long distances for work, school, shopping, healthcare, and other purposes. Often when doing business in other communities, they use the libraries in those communities. We see this in our own libraries every day. We have users that live in other communities, and many don't limit themselves to one library, but are regular users in multiple libraries. So it's not hard to imagine that our residents are using libraries in Marquezine, Green Lake, Wapaka, Oshkosh, and other places when they are working, attending school, and shopping there as well. That does not mean, however, that they don't value their local libraries. I'd like everyone in the audience who is here because they value their library and support county library funding to please stand up. Our libraries have been blessed with very good support from Waushara County for many, many years, and it's made a real difference. Thank you for your time and your support of our county libraries.
Thank you, Linda.
Good evening. I am Nicole Overbeck, Director of the Wautoma Public Library. Some of you have expressed confusion about how and why some libraries receive funding from other counties and why some of that money isn't being returned to Waushara. Let me try to explain how this affects the Wautoma Public Library. We get about a third of our use from the residents of the city of Wautoma and over half from Waushara County rural residents. Almost 3% of our use comes from residents of other counties, mostly Marquette. For many years, Waushara County has paid us for Waushara County residents' use of our library, and we're incredibly grateful for this because that cost used to be borne by Wautoma residents. Because of the funding that we've received from Waushara County over the years, we've been able to provide better library service for both city and county residents. We can buy more new materials, and we can keep the library open more hours, and we can offer more programming and events. For the past few years, we've been able to get funding from those adjacent counties to Waushara, like Marquette. Until then, we served them with no reimbursement, and we were happy to do so because good library service makes our community more attractive to visitors. This additional funding has helped us to better serve Waushara County residents as well as visitors. So in short, each funding resource, the City of Wautoma, Waushara County, and other counties is paying for use by their residents. But the funding we receive from all these sources helps provide better service for everybody. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Good evening. I'm James Fosick, Coloma Village Board Trustee. Almost a quarter of our library's use comes from people who live in Marquette County. Most of this is from the children who go to school in Coloma and from their families. We pride ourselves on how closely our library works with the school to help give our children a better education. Thankfully, we're now able to get funding from Marquette County for this use. This has made a tremendous difference for our library. We've been able to buy more books and other materials, keep the library open longer, and provide a better summer program to encourage the kids to read over the summer. These new books, longer hours, and better programs haven't only meant better service for those families from Marquette County, it's meant better service for the village and county residents as well. I understand some of the county board's feelings about money issues. We're under the same constraints as you are. But asking libraries to somehow pay Waushara County some of the money they're getting from other counties will only hurt the services they are providing for our own people. Thank you for your support and your time.
Thanks, James.
Good evening. I'm Jeannie Williamson, and I am the director of the Leon Saxville Library in Pine River. As you've heard, Waushara County has 8 great libraries that provide wonderful service to the people of Waushara County. Because of the way we work together and work with other libraries in the Winnifox system, our residents can get the latest bestsellers, information to help them succeed in school and at work, high-speed internet access connecting them to a world of information, plus personalized help with their informational needs. These services are available not only to our year-round residents, but to our many summer visitors and to those who are just in town for the day. We do some things pretty well, but we haven't always done the best at our self-promotion and to encourage our users to use our libraries more. But we're going to do better, and we're going to try to work with others in the county to promote not only the libraries, but the Waushara County services and businesses. Again, thank you for your time, and we all thank you for your support of the county libraries.
Thank you, Judy. Anybody else from the library? Not, we're going to continue on then, and we're going to have consideration now. and possible action on the following resolution.
Resolution number 44-1210, relating to the Waushara County Plan of Library Service 2011.
Need a motion?
I would move to approve the resolution.
Motion by Dennis Weddy, second by Larry Crawford. Any discussion now on it? Anna?
I guess my only thing is, you know, at budget time, we did ask the librarians to come out with some kind of a campaign, which they agreed to do, and to let people know that every time they go out of the county and get a book, you know, or whatever they're getting, that it's money taken away from our own libraries. And I think, you know, we haven't seen the campaign yet, and I understand they're working on it, and I would ask that they do that. And then the other thing I have a problem with is the amount of money that we have to pay, you know, to these libraries. You know, I think Oshkosh was $2.49. When somebody someone from another county takes from your library, does it cost that much? You know,
do you want me to answer?
if you like.
You're talking about the differences in the cost per circulation. It does depend on each library, and it's calculated by what their overall expenditures are versus what their operating costs are, and then it's calculated from each circulation is broken down to a price tag that way. So it just depends on the different libraries' funding and cost of operation. And that's why you see the differences between Oshkosh and, let's say, Waushara, because I believe our cost was $1.56.
That's, you know, that's where I think the problem for me lies, is that you might charge $1.50, but Oshkosh is charging $2.49 or whatever it might be. But I think that's something that we really, really need to take a look at, and maybe the Library Services Committee could meet and take a look at that, because you know, that's so out of balance. And every penny we pay to these libraries from other counties is a penny that we don't have for our own libraries.
Dennis?
I visited several of the libraries in our county, and I've talked to the librarians there, and they have talked about how they are trying to instill upon the people that use the libraries there that when they do use an out-of-county library, it does cost money. I think many of these people didn't realize that. This morning I called Senator Olson's office and spoke with them also about Article 420 and explained our problems here with financing and so on. I also spoke with Representative Ballweg this morning, or this afternoon actually, in person, and she too expressed confusion, not confusion, I shouldn't say that, but concern over what's happening with our libraries. She did not realize that when she used the library out of county where her business is, she's a resident of Green Lake County, and I believe her business is in Marcus Ann. I think that's in the neighboring county, but anyway, she stopped using that out-of-county library when she found out that her county is being charged for that. So I also spoke to her about our concern with Article 420, and we'll see. I think what I would like to see is I'd like to see the Winnifox organization be a little more active toward our legislators and explaining what our concerns are. Now, that's about all I have to say right now.
Any other discussion? Okay, no other discussion. We've got a motion and a second on the floor. This is our library service plan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's been approved. Thank you. Now we're going to have a new business presentations from the Annual Historical Society report. Bruce Reynolds is here, and Bruce is going to give us a report. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to the board for the support by allowing us to lease the museum at $1 a year. And there was some confusion about the garage, which I'll get into here in a minute. I believe that I did give the 2008, 2009, and 2010 financial reports or facts to Ruth Zowski, and she did get them. She's Corporation Counsel. And am I correct that she made copies of this annual report? Yes. So the county board members all have this? Okay, then I'll just try to make it real brief. Highlight it for the people that are in the audience here. First of all, the lawsuit between the Waushara County Historical Society versus the City of Wautoma has been settled. I had through litigation, but actually we had a mediator, so I am assuming that should have been mediation rather than litigation. Although both sides did present their case, but it did not go to trial. But we did have a mediator that brought the result, being the formation of the Wautoma Historical Board. And I also attached a copy of the Wautoma Historical Board organizational meeting of October 29th. And basically, I'll just summarize the board intent is that a copy of the judicial ruling regarding the intent of the board was distributed, and any items in the historical area at the library would automatically be covered by the city insurance, and then a list of such items would be provided to the city clerk on the inventory. An insurance writer may be needed to cover museum artifacts or private individual collections. The board policies are to get input from the library director on any proposals. If the board cannot agree on a proposal, it will go to the Wautoma Public Library Board, and C, the Wautoma Public Library Board would give approval or disapproval. The Historical Board can make suggestions, recommendations on any plan proposed by the Historical Society. The Historical Society is the one who comes up with our proposals first, and then it goes through these other steps. And then proposals develop the actual role of the Historical Society and the Wautoma Historical Board. Proposals, purchases, and payments. The proposals developed by the Historical Society will be presented to the Historical Board with a list of items needed with specifications and estimated cost. Proposals go through the approval process. If approved, the list of items will be forwarded by the board secretary treasurer to the city clerk for purchasing. And then a minimum of 2 weeks' notice requesting a meeting has to be given by the Historical Society to the chairman of the Historical Board. And then we also had a membership list and then the agendas and the meeting minutes will be provided to the board members and other interested parties, and they also are going to be published in the Argus. Back to the Historical Society. The genealogy department of the Historical Society has greatly expanded, with multiple copies of obituaries being filed almost daily in the research room located in the basement of the museum. We have an index which lists names in alphabetical order by last name. There's 2 loose leaf notebooks which just list the names. And then when we find the obituary, a check mark is put next to that name. That indicates that we have a copy of that person's obituary, and also which cemetery or township the grave is located. And therefore, visitors can then look up the file alphabetically, and then they can find it. They look for that particular cemetery book, and they can find the obituary, and that's where they can do their genealogy research and find information about the family. We also have index of court cases. When the court cases are over 20 years old, the courthouse supplies them to the museum, and they're filed in our archives.
These court cases are listed by last name with the case number in our index. So if anyone wants to look for a particular case, the cases are filed in file cabinets in the basement of the museum and the archive, which used to be the coal bin. It's way in the back. It's a fireproof room. And these file drawers are labeled by case number. The files are in order by case number, not necessarily in chronological order, since starting in the late 50s, cases often continued for many years before being settled. So you have to look it up by case number. And that's the way they're organized, not necessarily in chronological order. And then we have had requests from some attorneys to look at some of these old ones, and which we provide to them, and then they return them to us when they're done with them. We also have a lot of research coming in, requests over the internet, by email, or in some cases a letter, people wanting genealogy research, and then we look them up, and then if we find what they want, then we do charge them $3 a page, regardless of whether we scan them and email them to them or mail them the copies, but we always let them know what we find first. And so this provides service to people all over the country. Another project which has been pretty much completed is the notebook containing school attendance records. And then our current project is the typing up of poll lists and saving them to floppy disk, flash drives, and hard drives on our computer. I started printing out some of these, and unfortunately when they're done in a spreadsheet, you've only got one column of names, so then it makes a whole lot of pages. I had actually had Noel Wilcox type up the school lists, and they're not in alphabetical order, but they're in 3 columns. And we do have a notebook which contains all of these that she typed up. And all of this information is for people who want to prove that someone actually lived in Waushara County at a certain time. And then we have special events at the museum, Harvest Fest. We have the Christmas open house, and usually a 4th of July celebration, the Halloween open house. And then it's open Saturdays, Memorial Day through Labor Day. We're open year-round, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings from 8 to 11 for research, and tours Wednesday afternoons from 1 to 4. And a couple of the county board members actually came through to see the museum recently. The Guernsey-Dale Schoolhouse was moved to our Sandcrest property, but zoning disputes with the city of Wautoma and lack of funds are causing considerable problems and delays with our plans for restoring the schoolhouse and developing a historic park. The zoning committee turned down our proposal for that, so this is going to be a big problem. And that pretty much concludes everything that I wanted to tell you about it. So if anybody has any questions, of course the garage, we didn't realize that that lease had expired. I did pay now up through 2011, and we thought we were actually had to pay for the garage, but unfortunately we did have to rent a place for the hearse because we had a misunderstanding. Carol Wagner had the idea that Mike was going to store the hearse, and then he said, no, he doesn't have room. He's got caskets. So we had to rent a storage room for that. That's the big problem. Everything else, pretty much we're able to get into the museum. Any questions then? If not,
thanks, Bruce.
My report.
Very good report. Our next is land conservation update from Ed Hernandez.
Good evening.
I'm here to give you a couple of quick updates on the Land Conservation Department. First, I wanted just to go through some of the successes from our Prairie watershed. Some of you may remember that the watershed was selected, the DNR watershed was selected back in 1996 for Waushara County. phase 1 and phase 2 was the implementation stage, which began around 1998. Since then, it was about a 10-year program and concluded in 2009, and I think we talked about that at that time. We just finished up the last set of projects last year that were carried over due to weather or some sort of contractor delays. But essentially, it fits, the watershed program fits into the mission of the Land Conservation and Zoning Department. We want to promote sound conservation. We want to do it through education, through professional collaborations. And collaboration is really the key because one department really can't do it all. It is a collective effort with not only the Land Conservation and Zoning Department, but DNR and other professional agencies. Here, this will list just a couple of the accomplishments that we went through. Some of the major things that we were able to accomplish were to reduce the shoreline and stream bank erosion by 50%, which was huge for the watershed. And the geographical location of the watershed is all the way from Lake Poygan, west, north of Red Granite, just north of Watoma, up towards Wild Rose, and then back through Poisippi and Pine River, Poisippi, and the towns of Bluefield. It's 309 square miles. So we were able to reduce stream bank and soil erosion, and shoreline erosion by 50%. We put 100 acres of wetlands restorations back to native restorations, and not just enhancing wet spots in farm fields, but breaking tile lines and plugging ditches and truly restoring wetlands. One of the charges we had was to adopt a manure storage code. We did that in October of 2002. We've also done a tremendous amount of education, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And specifically, realizing two of the major goals of sediment and phosphorus were the two main goals of the watershed. This slide really depicts the efforts over the last, and successes over the last 10 years. The planned goal in the watershed was 27,000 tons annually of reduction. The results were we were able to capture over 117,000 tons of sediment annually, which is equivalent to about 5,800 dump truck loads every single year that we were able to prevent from going into surface waters in Waushara County. So that was a huge success for the watershed. The other big goal was the phosphorus and the phosphorus delivery. Phosphorus is measured in pounds. The goal, a little over 32,000 pounds for the watershed, and the net result through the efforts of our technical staff, over 144,000 pounds annually. Again, 200 dump truck loads that we were able to prevent entering waters in Waushara County. The other big thing that we're doing in promoting information and education, many of you have been part of our conservation field days, which you'll see that up in the upper left-hand corner. That's just one of the stations. It's our soil identification station. That's the NRCS District Conservationist doing the presentation. And we do this annually. We're in our 5th year this year. Some of you have been group leaders, and we certainly appreciate that. And if you're interested in doing that again, or for those of you who haven't, we're certainly willing to bring you on board. And it's a pretty good program. We service all the 5th graders in Waushara County. It's a 2-day event held at the McCann River, Camp Lucerne. And this year it's May 4th and 5th. So if you're interested, contact our office. You can stop in and see me. I'm just around the corner. We'd be happy to have you. That center slide there is a tour that our Land Conservation or Land and Water Education Committee takes annually. We try to get a tour every year to show our committee some of the projects that we install, where some of the state dollars go, and how some of the levy dollars are being used. This particular tour was on Silver Lake, and we were highlighting shoreline and shoreline protection projects. In the upper right-hand corner is one of the erosion control models, which was housed out at the Hancock Agricultural Research Station. We haven't used this model recently, but it has been at the county fair and at some of the tillage workshops out there. And again, the model represents various levels of runoff and ground cover. And when you dump water through the top, it percolates down. And of course, the green represents grass and some residue cover and then bare soil. And it's kind of a visual aid to help those that are attending the field day to get a real good visual idea of what buffers can do for water quality. And of course, as the water runs through the bare soil, it's picked up in that particular jar is much dirtier. So it's a pretty good visual. On the left is an example of some of our tillage workshops, crop walks, farmer training, nutrient management training also. We've been doing this for probably 10 years off and on. It's been a pretty successful effort to just get farmers together and talk about not just farming, but the different residue levels, the different crop needs, and things like that. The gentleman in the picture there is Don Genrick. He is the ag agent in Adams County, who we borrowed when we were in transition of ag agents before Ken Williams showed up. So Don was gracious enough to come over and give us a hand with some of those workshops. On the bottom is an example of some of the things Tammy does in the background there. This is our poster contest. We do this every year. And the contest is for middle school, grade school, middle school, and high school. And it's through an 11-county area through the Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association. And that's been a pretty successful program too. Our participation has dropped a little bit in the last couple of years, but it is a good way to get the conservation message out to the elementary and middle schools and high schools. This is the one slide that I really think it's one of the things that we're really most proud of in our shop.
Wow.
Right now, there's been over $2.5 million that we've been able to capture in state aid, DNR grants, and the like. Right now, when I went back through the budgets, there's been around $630,000 or so in levy over the last 10 years, which we've been able to leverage into $2.5 million in cost sharing. So for every levy dollar you produce or put into the Land Conservation and Zoning Department, we're putting $2.5 million or $4 out there in conservation to lake property owners, farmers, and those that participate in the program. So it's actually a little bit higher. There's some other grants we'll talk about later that I didn't include in here, but it's been fairly successful, and we really appreciate. I know the landowners, farmers, and lake property owners of Brashear County appreciate that. Other programs that we get involved with are the Gypsy Moth. I have a couple of quick statistics. I'll get you real quick here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've been doing the Gypsy Moth program since 2004. The last time we did any treatment was 2009, and to date we've treated over 550 acres that were infested with gypsy moth. The wildlife damage and claims program, there's 16 participants that come through our shop in 2010, which amounted to just shy of $29,000 in claims for deer and one case of bear damage. The venison donation program produced 53 deer and over 220 pounds of ground venison for the local food pantry. And the thing that I want to make clear is these are all pass-through programs, so there are no levy dollars involved with the county. We simply pay those participants and then get reimbursement back from DNR in this case. Trying to utilize as much of that as we can. This slide briefly is some of the SWRM dollars, or Soil and Water Resource Management dollars. These are dollars we get from state ag or DATCAP. You'll notice that there's a spike in those cost share dollars in 2003 and 2004. That's when the non-point redesign really took effect. DNR dollars are now transferred to state ag, so all of our watershed dollars and staffing and cost share was run through the SWRM program. And then you'll notice, has been the trend, if we've heard this tonight, there's been a steady decline in those revenues, or in that case. But we have the last couple of years kind of held our own in terms of those cost share dollars, and with the new administration, we don't know how that'll shake out, but we're certainly hoping for the best. Additional grants that our shop is involved with, we have a lake classification grant, which is a DNR grant. Currently, there are 5 phases. You see the first 2 aren't highlighted. We're currently working in phase 1 and 2. Phase 2, it's 2 $50,000 grants but a total of $100,000 to do water quality study and water sampling. And tomorrow we get to go out and drill a hole through the ice and start taking water samples. So if anybody's interested and wants to tag along, we're glad to have you. The $50,000 grant for the shoreline, for the comprehensive shoreline and shoreline protection evaluation, we went around and did some evaluations on shorelines, erosion, if there were structures within the 35 feet, if it was well vegetated, to what level, was it grass, brush, and things of that sort. And again, those are 2 DNR grants. The small scale planning grant in phase 2 is to purchase some equipment through the DNR, and we have that now in our shop. Phase 3, 4, and 5 are grants that we're going to be looking at in the future. Phase 3, we're probably, hopefully going to apply in May for lake management planning to assist lake groups in writing and updating of a management plan. Again, those are a couple of grants we're going to apply for. Hopefully we'll get another $100,000 from DNR. We don't know how that's going to shake out right now, but we're still going to press forward and try to get those dollars back into the county, into the lake property owners. We get to phase 4, we start implementing some of the practices that, and on some of the properties where we identified some of that erosion and things of that sort. So that'll come down the line probably in 2015 or 16, we're not exactly sure. And then phase 5 will be small scale planning grant to kind of wrap this all up in terms of the final report. Other grants there on the bottom, you'll see the Welcome to Waushara County Living was a grant that we helped the Watershed Lakes Council get, because they're not, considered government unit. That grant had to come through our shop, and we were able to produce $2,800 from the DNR to get these welcome packets to landowners who were purchasing property on lake property. So that was I think that was we had done that once before, so that was the second time we went through that process for them. The EAS grant is a 4-county grant that's now administered. Started in Waushara County through our shop in 2005. It's now administered through Golden Sands RC&D. And again, they're trying to capture a substantial amount of money through grants from DNR to do AIS. And right now, they're working in Waushara, Wood, Marathon, Wapaka, and Portage County now. So Wapaka is new, and they're just now they just now applied at the February deadline for Wapaka. So it's a quad county grant, but now there's 5 that have joined in that effort. The TRM grant, or the total targeted runoff management, that's a groundwater protection project we have in the town of Oasis. We have a farmer that we're going to be doing some work out there, and if you're around for June Dairy breakfast days, you'll be visiting that site where we're doing some of the work. And then some additional TRM grants from the DNR to help implement the performance standards. So we've been pretty active in trying to find monies to help the residents of Waushara County, and times of tight budgets to keep staff on board. We're also involved in non-metallic mining. Currently, there's 17 active mines. In our end of the shop, we basically go out and make sure that as that mine is reclaimed, it's done according to the plan. The Farmland Preservation is now the Working Lands Initiative. You may have heard about that, where farmers are able to get tax credits when they participate in the program. It's going to have some impact in Waushara County. The Working Lands Initiative is designated or designed for counties with exclusive ag zoning, so it's a lot more favorable for those farmers in exclusive ag zone townships. Landowners can participate, but they're going to have to get what's called ag enterprise areas, 1,000 acres. They got to get petitions and apply for that. So it's going to be a little more difficult. The actual tax credit is only around $5 per acre, so it's not as beneficial for those farmers in Waushara County as it would be in other counties, perhaps farther to the south. The other program there on the left, bottom, is our manure storage code. And we're going to be, that was again part of the watershed project back in 2002. Since the manure storage code, there's been some additional performance standards that we're going to have to go back and make some changes to, and we'll bring that back to the board in 2012. And then under the Uniform Dwelling Code, we do construction site erosion control. And I think this is probably where we've captured most of the sediment savings in the past, we had no idea if these practices were installed according to the best management practices handbook. Now we're out on every single site, particularly riparian landowners, and making sure that those silt fences are in place, and that we're, if we have to go back and look, we charge them an additional reinspection fee, and that only takes once or twice, and they figure that out pretty quick. So what lies ahead? Well, this summer, in talking with Melanie, we're going to ask you to come on another tour with us this summer in the Land Conservation and Zoning Shop. So right now we're looking at a working dairy, perhaps on the east end of the county. We've got another farm right next to it that has several conservation practices that we'd like to show you. In April, I will be bringing the Land and Water Plan for its update. I have to bring that to Department of Ag and the Land and Water Board in Wausau, and then once they approve that, back to full county board during your April meeting. Some of you have been through that before, so look for that coming down the road. NR 115, that's going to hit our shop here pretty quick. I know our director's been working really hard at getting that ordinance up to speed, and we're, I guess our part in the land conservation end of it is going to be perhaps doing revegetation plans and assisting those landowners that want to do some kind of mitigation. Livestock siding and working lands, again, those are, I put up there. Livestock siding may become an issue in Washera County, or it may not. If those of you have been paying close attention to Adams County, there's a pretty good sized dairy going in over there, and it may not be long before they start looking into Washera County to do some of those expansions also. So those are on our radar screen right now. I'm not sure where we're going to go with that in terms of livestock siding. The Working Lands Initiative, or farmland preservation, we have to revise our plan by 2013, and I think now we're just starting to assemble some of those documents and ideas and such. So, hey, look at that. I know that was quick. I didn't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to give you kind of a snapshot of where we are with the and some of the things that our department is working on. So you'll see me again in April, and you'll see me again on the summer tour, and then hopefully you'll get a little more familiar with what it is we do. So if you don't have any questions, thank you very much for the time.
Ed, very good. Our next one is a proposed kitchen project, and Deb Pavlov, Department of Aging Services Director. Randy's going to turn the lights on again, Deb.
Okay, well, I thought I'd grab this microphone so everyone can hear me. The purpose of me being here tonight is to discuss the proposed kitchen project and to give you some information about a possible alternative to the way we're currently operating the nutrition program. And hopefully you'll have enough information at the end of this discussion, but if not, we can always entertain additional comments. So why should we consider building our own kitchen? Well, it's exactly what the sheriff said earlier. Expenses continue to increase, and service cuts will be unavoidable if these expenses continue to rise. And I was here in December. Many of you probably remember. We talked about the growth of the older adult population for the next 20 to 30 years, and it's projected to reach over 38% by 2040 in Washera County. So putting money into our own building will help to control future increases in costs and secure the nutrition program during the current age wave that we're in. So I promised you also in December that I would not come back to you and talk about this unless I could come here and say that there would be no increase in the amount of tax levy that's requested on an annual basis for this portion of the nutrition program. You'll see as we go through this that there will be a savings of about $700 per month if we centralize the kitchen, and that can be used to reimburse the county board for either an interest-free or a low-interest loan. So I understand that this is an emotional issue, and this is a debate that has been going on since the day I walked through the door, just about, it seems like. So for about 9 years, so it's not a new topic. And I was actually glad to hear Larry here tonight and talk from the Hancock Community Board, and to show that the commitment of trying to work with us. Sometimes we have felt that we were not sure whether we were going to be welcome there from year to year, so it is nice to hear that. And I know that the county board has not wanted to do any building projects, and that was echoed again by the sheriff this evening, because you don't want to put an additional tax burden onto the residents of Waushara County. So, you know, respectfully, we understand all of that. But again, in this proposal, you'll see that we would not be asking for any additional county levy dollars. So the bottom line for me, as the director for the Department of Aging, is that it's my job to find a way to continue to be able to serve meals to our older adults who are in need of a home-delivered meal or who benefit from eating at a meal site with others. And again, with the age wave, that's going to be more and more people as we go. So what have we done already to try to reduce some of these expenses that we're having? We have taken down our nutrition program manager. Used to be a full-time position. It's now a 60% position. After the retirement of our long-term head cook, who's also in the audience, we were able to do a reorganization. We reduced production hours in the kitchen by 3 hours per day, and that saved about $25,000. Our current nutrition program manager is also acting as kitchen supervisor and actually cooks 2 days out of the week, and that provides a savings to our budget of about $10,000. We also eliminated one home-delivered meals route, so instead of 6, we now operate 5. That technically doesn't save necessarily a lot of money other than repair and life of the vehicles that we use, because we still have to deliver to the same number of people that we did previously. We're looking at entering a group purchasing plan through the Meals on Wheels Association for purchasing food and other items. We're looking at the number of administrative hours needed to support the program and looking at perhaps reducing those. And we're looking at alternate ways to use volunteers. So we are trying to look at all aspects of the program, not just the kitchen portion of the program. So expenses that are out of our control: gas prices, which then affect the food costs, annual staff increases, and annual health insurance increases. And as many of you probably heard on the news last night, we're expected to see up to close to $5 per gallon for gas this summer is what they're saying. Okay, so if we look at renting versus owning, you look at the rent cost right now, currently $1,300 a month, and I put a range of $1,300 to $1,500 because there are some board members from the Hancock Community Center who have stated that they really want to have $1,500. And then it's costing us an additional $700 a month because we have to go out to Hancock each day to get the food, to bring it back to Wautoma to give to the other drivers who then go out and deliver to the home delivered meals participants. So again, with my promise to come back to you only if it wasn't going to cost any additional county levy, we really had to take a look at how much would we anticipate gas, electric, water, sewer, etc. to cost if we were to have our own building. And with the help of Randy and some others, we were able to come up with some pretty good estimates of what those costs might be. And then that would leave us the balance to pay the county board back if they were able to give us a loan. So looking at that a little bit more in detail, again, currently, based off of the reports from the community center where we're currently renting, they have, obviously a budget for what they need in expenses and revenue, and a certain percentage of that is applied to us, and it kind of states that on the left-hand side. And then the monthly expenses to own, and what we anticipate it would be cost us if we were to relocate here in the Wautoma area and have our own bills coming up to us directly. And you can see at the bottom that essentially it's neck and neck, $1,300 per month for each. And again, we did a lot of homework on looking at those costs, and if anything, we estimated a little bit high on the expenses to own because we didn't want to underestimate. Any questions about that right there before I go on? Okay, so during the past year, we had a Reuter Architects Service do a cost analysis for us to see what a standalone building would be, and he came up with an estimate of $270,000 to $315. Now, since then, there's been some discussion about where we would put this possible building. The Public Works Committee has talked about a piece of land near the Sheriff's Department, just to the west of the Sheriff's Department. But, you know, obviously we'd be open to any land that would be available that you'd be willing to share with us. And apparently there's a fiber optic cable that runs there that they're not sure whether they would have to move. So that might be an additional expense. Then the other expenses that are listed in the circle, those are for any new kitchen equipment that we would need in our relocation expenses, and then the state plan review, the site survey, and the architectural or engineering fees. So the total could be anywhere between $378,000 to $453,000. Again, with the building only being between $275,000 to $325,000. And keep in mind that circled area, because that's going to come up in discussion here on the next slide. We currently have what we call a restricted nutrition trust account, and this account is allowed to us through our regional office and through the state guidelines with our programs, and it's all money that was given to us in donations or revenue that we received from meals that we maybe sold to, say, Family Care or other organizations. One of the biggest donations we received, and I remember talking to you about this in the past, was a donation from Rex C. Hall, who was on our home delivered meals program for about a year, and he left us in his will and donated us $32,000. We have to get permission, and we have to submit a plan each year if we have remaining balance in our trust account as to how we're going to spend that money. And in the past, when the building project was going on in the past, my regional office had given us permission to hold the money with the idea that we would use it to relocate to the new building. But since that project fell through, we have been told that we need to spend that money out and get it off the books. By policy, we're only supposed to have it for 1 to 3 years. However, I did talk to them about the current proposal, and they have said that they would give us permission to hold the money again if there was a guarantee that this project will be completed by a specified date. So that's money that we would have to pay that $103,000 to $128,000, which was the amount that's in the circled area. So really all we would need from the county then would be the $275,000 to $325,000. In addition, our regional office has given us permission to establish a fundraising effort. It's not something that I would want to spend 40 hours a week at, because I don't have time to spend 40 hours at a fundraising effort, but to open up the opportunity for people who might want to donate towards the project of securing the nutrition program for the future. And if we were to raise any amount of money, that would significantly reduce what we would need to borrow from the county. If you look at loan rates then, for $325,000 at 0% or 2%, if we were charged an interest rate, at the 0%, that it comes for 40 years to $677. And if you remember, I said we have $700 a month that we could work with. So that would fit into that area. If we only had to borrow $300,000 at 0%, it'd be $625 for 40 years. Or you can see some of the other variations. So again, it would depend on whether we did in fact raise any money and what the final amount would be. But we would have approximately $700, maybe a little bit more to work with. So it is tight, and there is technically not a savings, but what it does is it helps to secure our program for the future and helps to control the cost, because when you rent, you never know when those increases are going to come. So just looking quickly at support of the program right now, I just want you to know that 36% of our funding currently comes from donations or from meal revenue. 34% comes from grants, the majority of which are federal grants. There is a small portion of state funding in there as well. 30% comes from county levy. All of our large expense items for the past 8 or 9 years since I've been here have come out of that nutrition trust account. So we haven't had to come to the county board and ask for money to buy vehicles or kitchen equipment. The dining center signage that went up this past year, we actually were able to pay for that out of our trust account. So just quickly, who are we serving? We serve about 1,000 adults that are age 6 or older, which is about 15% of this population. 434 of them in 2010 were identified at moderate or high nutrition risk. We serve about 48,000 to 55,000 meals annually. And of those meals, about 65% of them are served to people age 65 or older. When you look at the age wave, and we talked about, you know, the growing number of older people up to about 38% by 2040, if we're currently serving 15% of that population, and you project out, you can see what the numbers will be, that by 2020, just 10 years from now, we'll be serving 1,400 people, 2030, 1,600 people. So the question that we have for tonight is, will you help secure the future of the elderly nutrition program? Our participants would be very grateful. And here, some of them couldn't be here with you tonight, so just want to show you some of the things that take place out at the sites in case you haven't been there or you haven't been there for a while. In case you don't recognize him, that's Elvis. That's, of course, Santa delivering meals. And because I knew the sheriff would probably have something to say about this before we started, I didn't want to leave him out and show how he gets involved out at the meal sites, and he truly does think that the elderly nutrition program is important. So I just want to thank you. In conclusion, I guess tonight the Commission on Aging is formally asking you to support the building of a standalone kitchen by providing an interest-free or low-interest loan of no more than $325,000. Again, this will not increase the amount of county levy currently being allocated to this portion of the nutrition program on an annual basis. And we thank you for your willingness to help find a way to secure the nutrition program for the next 50 years. I'm going to open it up to questions, but I also have the chairman of the Nutrition Council here who would like to say a few summary words, and his name is Bob Weisner.
The nutrition budget has been well maintained without asking for additional county funds. As a member and president of our 18-member volunteer nutrition program, and I am president of it, at the council, we're always looking for ways and means to save money. Past examples are in purchasing and home delivery routes. Having a standalone kitchen in Wautoma rather than renting and travel expenses would be a future savings value for our county. Now is the time to act on this proposal. Thank you.
Any questions or comments or anything?
Thanks, Deb. We're going to get into a discussion on it now as the county board. Very good presentation.
Norm, Joe had a question, I think.
I had a couple of questions for you, actually. How big a building are you talking about?
What we're proposing is 1,800 square foot, just bare minimum,
And have you looked at multiple builders or contractors?
We have not gone that far at all.
So it could be less with the bidding process? Okay.
Kitchen without a room to serve, you mean just a kitchen to serve the food?
At this point, we're just looking at a kitchen only. That's it. Yep. Bare bones.
I noticed the fiber optics on the proposal. What does that entail?
The fiber optics run through the piece of property that we're currently looking at, west of the jail. And so in order to build there, we might have to move that. And so that's what the cost is.
Can we go back to Mrs. Krentz's question about not, and the reason we're doing just a kitchen and not looking at putting the diners there is because we still will be supporting the senior center. And that's why, you know, we would keep the diners there.
And honestly, if money wasn't an issue, it would be ideal to build enough space for that in case we would need it, but we are in a cooperative agreement with the Watoma Senior Center. We are committed to that. We want to see them succeed as well, as long as they want us to be there. So, and again, the more you add on, the more expensive it gets, and the you know, I said I wouldn't ask for any additional county levy, so it has to fit into that $700 to $800 range.
Larry?
You told us how much it was going to cost, but now you don't know how much it's going to cost if you have to start moving stuff. How much is it going to cost us?
Well, the moving of the fiber optical was between $5,000 and $10,000, and that was on the proposal. So even with that, even if it was $10,000, the most that we are assuming the building would cost us would be $325,000.
Yearly contract with Hancock, or how do you, is it monthly or yearly, or how do you?
It's an annual contract that we have with Hancock.
Bill?
That fiber optics buried?
Yes, it is.
Well, why, if we're not gonna have a basement, why is that a problem?
Just because we don't know how deep it is, and with the equipment and stuff, there's a possibility of severing it. And that's, I think all the communication on 911 and stuff between courthouse and the jail.
Dave? Go ahead.
What is your meal cost, per meal cost?
And I'm going to just grab the microphone so everyone can hear, because I know it's hard to hear. He asked what the meal cost is. Right now, our meal cost probably operates a little differently than yours in that there's many components of it, but the food production component of the meal cost is $3.52 per meal. Then after that, we would have the packaging component, and then after that, we would have the delivery component, and then we would have, depending on whether it's a home-delivered meal or a congregate meal, we would have dining center expenses, you know, paying rent for the dining centers. For home-delivered meals, the assessment process is a very time-consuming process, so that gets built into it. And then there's the administrative component of the food cost. But if we're looking at apples to apples for like what you would do, we would be at $3.52 right now. For congregate, it would depend. It could be set up many different ways. For congregate, like right now, like if you were catering for us, you might deliver to us in bulk. So the congregate food for the dining centers might be already in the counted out pans for the amount that they need, or you might just ship it in one big bulk to us, and then we would have to count that out. The home delivered likely would be shipped out in bulk, and then we would have to put it into the trays, film the trays, and then package those into the coolers that get sent out on the routes. So it all depends on what would get built into what an outside vendor would be able to provide for us. Does that make sense? Okay. There's some people out there that want to ask. Is that okay? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
Why does it have to be built in Watoma?
Yeah. And, you know, I would love to be able to say that it would be great to stay in Hancock. The difference comes in the travel time. It's not, though, because our drivers, we have 5 drivers. They all come, all of our vehicles are here in Watoma. They all come to Watoma and they disperse from the Watoma area. 2 of the drivers, we have a northeast route and we have a northwest route and a southwest route. So we send 2 drivers out to the kitchen and then they get their food from there and they go northwest and southwest. Then we have a 3rd driver who goes out to the kitchen, gets all of the food, brings it back to Watoma, and then delivers it to the other drivers who go to the northeast and to the the southeast and to the center. And so that driver has to go there and back every day, and that's where the $700 a month difference comes in. Mm-hmm. The difference is that we have to get the food from the kitchen to the other drivers, because if we sent all of the drivers out to Hancock to get the food, then we would have $2,100 a month to work with, because it'd be 700 times 3 drivers. Yeah, all of the vehicles are kept at Washira Industries, who we have a contract with to do the home delivery. So the only solution to that would be is if we would be able to keep a vehicle secured someplace in Hancock where the driver would not have to first come to Watoma and could then report to Hancock instead. And then you wouldn't have that coming here, traveling to Hancock, traveling back. Time, mileage, gas. Mm-hmm. Need the jobs. Yeah, I agree with you. Right. And we agree with you. We don't want to ship it out to an outside vending source. We are trying to find a solution to do it here locally. We don't want to lose control of doing it ourselves. We believe that we're going to benefit if we can maintain that control. We're not against the Hancock community. Believe me, we're not. We're just trying to figure out how to survive financially going forward for the next 20 to 30 years. Mm-hmm. Yes, you have. Yes, we did put new equipment in. Well, we would be able to relocate our equipment. Do you want this to keep going on?
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks for your presentation. Okay, we got discussion of possible action now on action items, and the first thing is proposed kitchen project. Mark Kirshner isn't here tonight because he's out of town, and he left word with me to tell the people that he's not against the project at all. He himself would like to wait until you add it on to another project like improving EMS or something like that. He's not here to vote. It doesn't count, but he would like that word put out. Okay, at this time, proposed kitchen project. Now it's time for our discussion.
Oh, you don't want me to
We
make
have
a
a
motion
motion.
to approve?
We'll put it on the floor. Okay, we got a motion by Donna Claudia to approve the kitchen project. Got a second by Everett Eckstein. Now the discussion.
I would like some clarification, please, as to where the loan, or how that is working, where the loan is supposed to come from for, to pay this $325,000 for the benefit of the people here. Deb mentioned that there's no tax dollars coming out of this, so I'd like a clarification on what that is so everyone understands that.
That money and her proposal would come out of the county general fund as a loan, and then she'd pay it back, or the commission agent would pay it back as her time schedule showed.
Now, would this loan be somewhat comparable to the, in interest rate or whatever, to what we now get from our certificates of deposits in the various banks in the county?
It could be. It hasn't been decided. That's up to the board to decide if they want to do it or not.
Because those CDs are not bringing in a lot
We're
more.
not making hardly anything on interest
Like the
anymore.
1.5% or something in some of them.
That'd be one way of doing it. Give the money to the Commission on the Aging and charge the going interest rate of what we're getting. That's one way of looking at it, but that's up to the board to decide. Any more discussion on it? Bill?
Would Deb Donna clarify that maybe you should have an interest rate in this proposal motion that you're making? Like 0%.
Well, I think we should take care of, after we approve their project, I think we should take care of the loan on it then. Don't you think, Ruth, or do you want to take it all at one?
Well, you certainly can do it either way. I guess that, there may be some people who will vote against the project if there's not an interest rate. I don't know what the board's thinking, but, you could do it in 2 steps and have a motion to approve the project with a loan, and then have a second motion to say what the terms of the loan are gonna be. However you wanna do it.
Everett?
I don't think it'd be fair to ask for more than what we're getting, for sure, as far as interest now on our monies. I think that would be insulting to the commission. I think they've gone overboard in trying to do their job, to save money, to do everything they can, and I think we should applaud the commission and the members for coming up with something like this. We've never been offered something like this before, with it not costing the county. That's why I seconded it. And I wouldn't vote for any more than 1.5% interest.
Well, 1.5% is fine, but you'd rather, seeing it's gonna last 20, 30, 40 years, you should be going interest rate, whatever we receive. Because you don't know how times are gonna change in that time, and according to what it showed up here, it might take 20 years, it might take 40 years to pay. That's my thoughts. Any more discussion on it?
I hate to see EMS coming in a month or so, or a year or so, saying they want a building too now, if the
That's right.
Department of,
That's what,
I can see that coming also.
sure. That's right. Donna?
That's, we can't make decisions on what if. What we have is a proposal, and the proposal is that we borrow the money from the county, and so there's nothing, no levy, and we're going to pay it back, or the commission will pay it back. I don't think we've ever had, a department that is willing to pay the money back. So it will not affect the levy. So I don't think we can worry about what's coming down the road. What we have before us is a proposal, and we either accept it or we don't.
Mrs. Krenz, you had another one?
Yes, but could the sheriff use some of this facility too then, down the road, for his meals too then, or doesn't want it?
The sheriff has a state-of-the-art kitchen.
I know.
So why would he want another kitchen?
Like, he caters some of his stuff out, right?
No.
It's all made right there?
Yes.
It's all made right there by a food service. company.
The food service company has hired local people.
Local people, okay. Because I knew it was a food service, but I didn't realize it was inmates or whatever.
It's not apples to apples, it's apples and oranges, but our meal costs are $1.58.
Wow.
And that contract is coming up, so we don't know if that'll continue to be $1.58 a meal either.
We just renewed it for 2 years at no increase in cost for 2 years.
Well, that's good.
Wow.
More discussion. Okay, this will be a roll call vote due to the amount of money, so,
Mr. Piaski.
Yes.
Mr. Weddy.
Yes.
Mr. Downey.
Yes.
Mr. Eckstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Plata.
Yes.
Mr. Weiss.
yes.
Mr. Likeness.
Yes.
Mr. Crawford.
No.
Mrs. Kranz. Mr. Tim.
Yes.
Okay, it passed. So now we gotta have to start working on it. And also, that going interest rate was in that motion, if I,
There was no interest rate in the
Okay.
motion. Donna
Now-
just moved to approve, and so now we need to know what the terms of the loan are.
okay. We need a motion on the terms of the loan now.
Can I ask a question of Debbie? Is that possible?
Sure, Deb?
Debbie, what happens if the interest rate starts scooting back up as far as paying it off?
Well, just like any other expense, like what happens when the gas prices go sky high this summer? You know, we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. We might have to look at, do all of our meal sites need to be open, or do we take one day a week away from the meal sites? Some counties are putting people on waiting lists for home delivered meals. You know, those are the tough decisions I'm trying to avoid. But if you know, if you're charging a higher interest rate and it's an expense we have, and there's no place else where we can cut anything, we will be forced into making those kind of tough decisions.
In other words, you'll deal with it. No, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but thank you.
But no matter what we would have had to make, I mean, no matter where we're fixing the meals, we would have had to make those decisions anyway if those circumstances arise, correct?
Yeah, anything.
And you certainly have the option to structure this in multiple ways. You could do a fixed interest rate over how many ever years that takes to pay it off. You could do 0% for the first 5 years, and then go to 1% for the next 10, and then go to 2. It can be structured any way that you want it to be structured.
Could we structure it for a certain number of years and then review it at that time? Come back to it and determine at that time?
It would make it more difficult from an administrative end to keep track of, but it certainly could be done.
Is this something that the executive committee could come back with a recommendation?
Well, let's,
On that.
I think we can settle it here tonight.
Can we?
The board
Okay.
here is as whole, and,
Right.
and they have their own ideas, and it can be all the way from 0 to 1 to whatever, so. We need a motion though to get it on the floor so we can discuss it for interest rate.
Does anyone know, and I'm not sure, what is the prime rate at this point in time?
I didn't look that up today.
Okay. Well, neither did I, obviously. But, no, I was thinking that maybe we could tie it somewhat to a percentage under the 1% less than the prime rate or something like that.
That certainly is a possibility. I think your economic development loans are prime +2. Then there's some other ones that were like at a flat 4%. And I mean, that's completely different because that's like a business and that's a revolving loan fund, but those were some of the things. I think at executive yesterday, we had the last treasurer's report with the investments, and the interest we were getting on our investments was anywhere from 0.5% to 4%, and the 4% ones were coming due, and we weren't gonna get those kind of rates again at this time. So, I mean,
Norm, could I say something?
Sure.
In the proposal, when I showed the 0 to 2%, even at the 2%, the amount was starting to stretch past that $700 to $800 range, which, you know, it depends on how you're gonna get, you know, we may need 7 years then to pay the loan back if the interest gets too high. If the interest gets too high, I don't know that it's feasible that we can do it, and I'm just being honest with that, so.
I'm wondering if we could structure it that, for the first 5 years, maybe 0%, or we could do one under prime. You know, but if we could do like 5 years at 0%, and then from there on, maybe go 1% for the next 5 and 2% for the next.
Well, it is a county building, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna be moved or sold to anybody else. So 0% wouldn't hurt us a bit. They're saying they're gonna pay it back.
So, all right, I'll make a motion that we keep it at 0%.
Second.
40 years. 40 years.
Okay, and we got a second to that by Bill Downey. 0% interest.
for 40 years.
40 years. Okay. Any more discussion on that?
I probably won't come back and vote in 40 years.
No, no.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Do we need a roll call on this? No.
You probably should.
Okay, it's a roll call vote then again.
Mr. Petty,
Aye.
Mr. Downey,
Aye.
Mr. Eckstein,
Aye.
Mrs. Solana,
Aye.
Mr. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rogers,
Aye.
Mr. Crawford, Mrs. Krantz, Mr. Tim,
Aye.
Mr. Piastri.
Aye. Okay, that takes care of the kitchen project. Did a good job, Deb.
Tonight is actually my birthday, so I.
Okay, now we're gonna have changes to the county board bylaws, time of the county board meetings. I've had requests that we have our county board meetings the third Tuesday of the month instead of the second Tuesday of the month, due to the fact most of the committees meet the first part of the month, and then everything is in. We've had amended agendas, we don't get stuff on the agenda. Also, other counties have the third Tuesday of the month, so then they structure meetings of other sorts or conventions. We're always, like Donna and I, a few weeks ago, we had to miss part of a highway, or most of the highway conference kind of it. Deb is at one now today at the legislative conference in Madison due to that, because they structure them that way. Most counties, about 75 to 80% of the counties in the state have it the third Tuesday of the month as a county board meeting. Ours has been the second Tuesday. The only time we have it as the third is by state statute, we have to for reorganization. So what is your thoughts on that? Would you want it? And then there's another thought. I've had a request from a few people. Winter months go back to daytimes. Summer months at 7 o'clock in the evening or 6 or whatever you decide. The reason we went to 7 in the evenings, we've had some people here working that couldn't make it otherwise. Basically, they'd miss some meetings, so that's why we had it night meetings. So this is up for discussion, and this is a motion we have to make to change the bylaws on time and date.
When would this take effect?
I think it should be a month or two down the road, because we're looking at zoning. Zoning has the third week there, they have their meetings, and I don't know how they're gonna fit in. They might have to send out and do some of their changing on theirs too.
Then I'll make a motion to adjust the time, the meeting times of the county board from the second to the third Tuesday of the month, and also to make the winter meetings daytime meetings beginning at 10, and the summertime meetings at 7 p.m., and have this begin in May.
Dennis, what do you consider winter?
Winter, what was it when prior times?
October, November, December, January, February, March was always winter.
That's what I would consider winter. Well, who knows? It might snow in August, too.
Yeah. Bill?
I second that motion, please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Yes, Bill, I mean,
How many of our municipalities are we gonna conflict with their meetings that night?
I don't know.
I know the Village of Granite is the third Tuesday, I don't know any others. Has anybody looked at the books?
Yes.
The second Tuesday conflicts with three townships and a village. I know that because I generally have to miss those. But if you give me a minute or three or so. Tonight's meeting, the second Tuesday conflicts with the village of Loreauville, town of Mount Morris, Deerfield, and Warren. The third Tuesday, the only conflict is the village of Current.
I think the town of Marion also moved to the third Tuesday.
Town of Marion meets on the second Thursday.
I think they moved.
They moved it to the second Thursday.
Oh, Thursday, okay.
One of the reasons we went to night meetings too, though, was because if somebody wanted to run for the county board and had a full-time job days, that they could make the meetings. So we have to take, we can look at us and say, okay, most of us are retired, but if someone isn't retired that wants to run, it will impact that. Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah, I think Deerfield is tonight, second Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
Larry?
I think these are two separate issues, and I guess I would request that we vote on them separately.
Okay. Okay, the first issue is the third Tuesday night of the month. Change our bylaws, we have the,
I will amend my motion to move the meetings from the second to the third Tuesday of the month.
I'll second that.
motion and a second, and that's all there is to the motion. And that'll start in May.
Correct.
Okay. And, okay. Everybody ready for that one? Okay, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's been approved. Now, the time of our meetings, it'd be the winter months and summer months, leave them the same, change them or whatever, that's,
I will make that motion to change the meeting times for the winter months as outlined by our Corp Council, the correct months, to daytime meetings, and the summer months to nighttime meetings. Daytime meetings being at 10, summer and nighttime meetings being at 7 p.m.
we got a motion on that. Do we have a second to that motion? Yes, second by Bill. Now, discussion on it. All in favor of that, then say
I would
aye.
have liked a day meeting today. On a night like tonight, I would have loved a day meeting today.
Sure. Okay, all in favor of that, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Got one dissension and the rest, so that's been approved. Now we're gonna have a discussion of possible action on an upgrade to Motorola's new generation analog IB simulcast solutions, and this is something that came up since our last county board meeting where Motorola's gonna give us some better equipment. So Dave?
Thank you again. In addition, I guess I asked Norm if you would bear with me, because I think I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I think what I heard last county board meeting was that you wanted kind of to be kept up to date on the big picture. So if you bear with me, I'll try to do that. One of the things that we've done, because we've had some challenges, I guess, if you will, is that we looked at hiring a consulting firm, and we met with Ruth and I and a couple other people, and we decided that there was just some things that we weren't able to do. Ruth and I both refused to climb the tower when it was built to inspect. Tom Dahlke agreed to climb the tower, but we didn't think he knew what he was be looking at when he got there. So what we have done is we've gone out and item by item looked at what we could do and what we were not capable of doing, and then getting somebody to help us out, but not going beyond where we are at or where we see we're going. For instance, we're looking at a couple of tower sites. We may or may not be able to build there, so we haven't gone beyond that with a consulting firm. We don't want to spend any money that we don't have to. We met and established a timeline. We, by our own admission, we met with all the vendors except the state of Wisconsin. It was a pretty ambitious timeline, and we figured that we would be done by November 1st. Since that time, less than a month later, we're hopeful to get the project completed by early spring of 2012, because we keep identifying other issues. One of the issues that I've been dealing with is the two proposed tower sites, and we have to go to the town boards, we have to go to the zoning, we have to go to the Board of Adjustments. Town of Plainfield, I believe, meets tomorrow night, and we'll be there. Also, Ruth and I thought that the best approach to be neighborly with the neighbors that were going to be bordering on their property, we put together a little informational pack, tried to keep it comprehensive but simple. It was 4 sheets of paper, and I went and made appointments and hand-delivered each one of those and sat down and tried to explain it to the adjoining landowners the best I could. Gave them Ruth's number if they had legal questions, gave them a document that showed how the towers are going to be designed, and also informed them of when the zoning board and the Board of Adjustments was meeting. That went very well in that nobody shot at me. Everybody pretty much was very supportive of the idea, although they did have some reservations about putting restrictions on their deeds. One place I went to had the misunderstanding that I was coming to buy property to build a tower, and they wanted to know if I'd brought $3 million along. They were willing to sell me 40 acres for $3 million. Since we have developed these two sites, the one in Plainfield and the one in Wautoma, we've taken into account some issues that we thought would come up with some of the adjoining landowners, and we have redesigned those sites to be cognizant of their concerns. And so I believe that when we just got those yesterday or today, but I think we will have those ready when we go to the town of Plainfield tomorrow, and zoning and Board of Adjustments later this month. We're also working, as you know, and we explained before, we're dealing with a private enterprise. They'll have 3 towers, we will have 3 towers. So right now we're working on coming up with an agreement where we will cohabitate on each other's towers at no cost to either one of us for being on the other one's tower. We believe that our current plan, the state is still in agreement with if we can locate where we're hoping to locate, and they will be sharing they'll have some dollars invested into that. Which brings us to what is actually on your agenda tonight. We met with all the vendors and established a timeline, and after we were adjourned, I was called aside in the hallway by the Motorola representatives and said, you know, we didn't know when the best time to bring this up was, but the equipment that we bid and what we agreed on is not going to be supported beyond 2018, because the next generation of equipment is coming out in the spring of 2012. My first comment to them was, I'm not going back to the county board and asking for any more money. So if you're going to have new equipment, you better come in at the same price or less, preferably less. They went back, they got that message loud and clear, and they went back, and although we do not have an itemized list, piece by piece, we do have a letter from them stating that it will be at no additional cost. The new equipment, you know, how long beyond 2018 will the new equipment last? I guess in today's fast-paced technology world, that's anybody's guess. But when we met with the Radio Study Committee and the Public Safety Committee, I don't think any of us could see any reason why we would want to purchase equipment that was not going to be serviced beyond 2018. If we get this going in 2012, that's 6 years. And again, this is a large amount of money. So that being said, and the fact that the newer, next generation equipment is not going to cost us any more money, we are asking that you approve the upgrade to Motorola's next generation analog IP simulcast solution.
Bill?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see the sheriff's problem with being up in the air. He's done that a lot.
The difference between 20 feet and 420 feet, Bill.
Okay, we need a motion to accept Motorola's new proposal. Motion by Larry Crawford, second by Joe Piasky. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's been approved. That takes care of there. Now we've got consideration and possible action on the following resolution.
Resolution number 6-11, resolution authorizing burial allowance under state statute 45.84.
Okay, Mr. Rosenau, you can come up here now and explain it. He's our veteran service officer.
All right, thank you for taking the time. In summary, Statute 4584 allows or actually places the responsibility of the burial of indigent veterans on the County Veteran Service Office. It further places the burden of paying for the cost for those burials on the county itself, the county of the veterans' residence. I surveyed other counties to see how often they actually had to make use of this statute, and the most any one county has ever seen in 1 year is about 4 times. Costs can be kept very low on this in future by utilizing state veteran cemeteries, utilizing the federal refund of burial expense, which currently is $300. And in fact, in this case, we've already submitted for reimbursement of transportation of the decedent and also for the burial expense from the federal. But it left $935 in the hands to be covered yet on the burial expense. I see this as probably a one-time utilization currently, with very limited use in the future. The proposal also contains addition to a line in my budget to keep me from having to come to the board and ask for the money in the future. That would be a rollover fund, and as I mentioned before, surveys with other counties says it's very, very little utilized.
Okay, we need a motion.
Motion
by
to
Donna
approve.
Claudia, second by Everett Eckstein. Any discussion on it?
There's a state program, medical assistance program, was that in this situation pursued first?
Yes, it was, and unfortunately the veteran was not covered by county Medicaid and was therefore ineligible for that program.
Usually when that occurs, they have too many assets, correct?
Or they didn't apply. It's part of this statute actually puts due diligence on me to examine the decedent's financial situation. Zero. He had nothing. Basically living with friends, and
Still denied the.
unless he, I called Ms. Sunshine, and she said no.
I understand.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion on it? This will be a roll call vote due to the money coming out of general fund. Everett?
For veterans. I really do.
Okay, you can call the vote then.
Mr. Downey?
Aye.
Mr. Eckstein?
Aye.
Mrs. Claudia?
Aye.
Mr. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Likeness?
Aye.
Mr. Crawford?
Aye.
Mrs. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Tim?
Aye.
Mr. Piasky?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Okay, that's been approved then. Now we got one appointment, is Donna Goldsmith to the Board of Health. From Watomir, I guess about everybody knows Donna.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the appointment of Donna Goldsmith to the Board of Health.
Motion by Dennis Woody, do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Krantz to approve Donna Goldsmith. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Been approved. Any suggested items for the next county board meeting? Motion by Everett Eckstein to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second by Larry Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Well, we're gonna be visiting towers this next week.
Nice to have it.
There's two, huh?
Well,
There you go, Bill.
See, I didn't realize that they were
might
gonna do
affect
it.
somebody's decision to run
money.
Oh, do ya?
in future.
Oh,
That's the only reason I voted against it.
you was in Idaho last
Doesn't
year
really
too, though,
affect
weren't
me.
you?
Maybe at
But not for
that
Bear.
time, we can.
Oh, you were up.
Business.
Show me.
Last year, we just said,
Wyoming.
like meetings, we just